let's talk about Djokovic, 37 years of age at this point in time. From reports coming in is that the man is confident he can still win Grand Slam, starting out the Australian Open with the Serbian kickstarting his bid for an unprecedented 11th title and the record 25th major crown in Brisbane later this week. Michael, what do you make of it? Djokovic looking very much optimistic of course, getting past that record of Margaret Court and hitting his 25th Grand Slam, and also maybe continue to dominate the beautiful world of tennis.
Yeah, for me, I think he has what it takes to also dominate and once more pull the strings and also make that record a milestone that you want to achieve, which is about 25 Grand Slam. I think for me, he still has what it takes. We talked about this in the morning, but for Novak Djokovic, especially having seen some of the big names also dropping their racket, retiring right now, leaving some of the young, generation, the likes of Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, and the rest of some of these young gen to carry on. I think the experience is still there for Novak Djokovic. And if he's determined, to make that push as to also make that 25 Grand Slam record, I think it's still very much possible. And for me, take a look at his tactics and techniques. Sometimes when you want to land that big, trophy, it doesn't take part in many games. He just select some of the games that you want to play into just because you want to reserve his energy and strategy as well to also continue to move on. So for me, I think Novak Djokovic, he has what it takes to also make that record of 25 Grand Slam.
Novak Djokovic, of course, looking forward to put up something huge at this point in time come next year in tennis. We hope for the best, of course, for the man. But Michael, we'll leave it that very easy for him, looking at the fact that the ATP looking very much interesting, as it stands. We have one man, Yannick Sinner, who dominated 2024, finished the year as world #1, and also did well, for himself as well. Carlos Alcaraz, we understand, wasn't that very much, fantastic, especially, towards the end of the season. And you talk about the likes of, Rublev, and talk about trying to recall his name, Medvedev as well. And that's a man, Alexander Zverev. Yeah, Zverev had a very impressive 2024 as well. You think with these guys, being on their toes at this point in time, will it be that easy for Novak Djokovic, 37 years of age, as a stand? Though the experience might be there, but the energy, does he still have that energy to compete with these young guys?
He might not have the 100% energy, but he needs to cover up the place of energy with that of experience, and that is what he has going for him. But if you take a look at some of the young gems, some of the big names you hear of today, this, the likes of Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, Taylor Fritz, just name them. You have one thing in common among all these players, exception of Yannick Sinner, which is inconsistency. Most of these young gems, they are not that consistent, like the days of Rafael Nadal, the days of Margaret Court. You see healthy competition, healthy rivalry among some of the big names out there. In fact, you see 4 big names competing at all levels against each other. So before you could come out top in that very one, you know that you've beaten the best of the best before you get to where you are. But these days, we find inconsistency among some of these big names. That is when you get to see them shine today. In the next game, they don't end up, taking that same form. You see that they shine in this particular tournament. The next tournament, you see them flip-flopping. They lose their energy. They lose their, interest. They lose everything that they know about the game. And that is why they are not doing enough. And that is why you look as though Yannick Sinner is making the headline, because there is no one per se to really give him a run for his money. We're talking about the likes of Carlos Alcaraz coming up two years ago that, yeah, possibly we tip him to be the new face of tennis, but then we've seen that inconsistency has been the bane. You talk about Taylor Fritz, inconsistency as well. German Stefo, inconsistency as well. Just name them. So for me, I think he might not have the physical energy, but he may have a little, but has the experience to back it up, which is, for me, it is a great advantage for him. So taking a look at some of these names very much around right now, they are good on their own, but then I'm very particular about consistency. Can they be able to be consistent? can they be able to stand tall in the face of challenges? These are the big issues that, for me, it's more of a concern to me than even the players on the court are the likes of... because I tell you, I really feel for Carlos Alcaraz. Nobody saw Yannick Sinner coming anywhere. No, in fact, he came through the back door before he began to make his names. You know, so I expected some of these players to have, you know, risen up to the occasion. When we are having some of the regular big names retiring, this should be their time, you know, to lay claim of what, you know, should be their generation for them to also dominate. If we have 3 good players in the ATP at the top level, competing against each other. Just imagine what you are going to experience in the world of the ATP. Then you will recall the memories of Roger Federer. You recall the memories of Margaret Court. You recall the memories of Andy Murray. This is what it should be. But today, it is not what is obtainable. It is only one man that probably is running the show, having a 37-year-old Rafael Nadal still hoping to win 25 Grand Slam. Djokovic. So I think for me, he has what it takes because of the experience and because of the inconsistency of this young generation.
All right, let's see how it goes. Promises to be an exciting one come next season. Of course, we're going to take a look at the Australian Open that will be coming up in January and see how these players, of course, they've all prepared, you know, for the coming season as it stands. But talking about it, Michael, Andy Murray got retired this year. Yeah. And as well, Rafael Nadal got retired. And I think the only man remaining now is Novak Djokovic. Roger Federer also retired as well. Yeah. You know, talking about those big names that, you know, always put up that very high level of competition. You know, do you think going forward, we're also going to be seeing that high level of competition in tennis, you know, as it stands?
I do not think so. I just...
Yannick Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, you think they can't still put up that level of competition?
No. I also pointed to that very fact earlier when I mentioned about inconsistency. I do not see some of these young players, you know, maintaining that consistency. And if you are not showing that top level of consistency, there's no way you can, you know, stand tall when it matters more. So for me, I do not see them, you know, fitting into the shoes of some of these big names that have retired. It will take them a lot, and they need to work it out. They need to show workings on the court out there before I personally can truly take any of them serious when you talk about consistency. I think the only man that I can actually vouch for, possibly place a bet on, is maybe Yannick Sinner. Of course, yeah, he had an impressive year last year. Also had an impressive year this year as well. In fact, this is his breakthrough season for me. He has had an impeccable display so far, despite the challenges. At some points where we heard about the doping issue, some point deducted away from him, you know, he had to pay some fine as well. That did not deter him, even in the midst of competing, you know, for some of the major championships. He was not deterred. He still went out there to deliver. So I think that is the only man that I personally can place my money on and say, okay, this very one can stand the test of time. But for the rest, I doubt if they can be able to stand tall.
Let's quickly take a look at the WTA as well. A very impressive, you know, level of competition we saw this year. And talk about the likes of Aryna Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek, Jessica Pegula, Cory Kokogov. You know, these were, you know, the players that really had a very, very impressive performance. I can't also forget, you know, Zingwen, who also came up, you know, in a very fantastic fashion to compete with these big names as well. Aryna Sabalenka had an impressive 2024. Do you see her replicating same form come next season?
On the contrary, you see, in the WTA, we've seen maybe a little bit of competitiveness, between the players of the WTA and that of ATP. You know, in the WTA, you are seeing Iga Swiatek taking a giant stride. You are seeing Aryna Sabalenka doing massive things, Zingwen as well doing massive things. So for me, I think in the WTA, I expect to see even more stiffer competition come this year. Having know the fact that Iga Swiatek has been dethroned as the world #1, I think her major aim next season is to also bounce back, and that will bring a whole lot of rivalry between her and the number one as it is. While other players like Zheng Qing as well will also be hoping, you know, to get to that number one spot, and this would make the WTA even more competitive compared to the ATP. So for sure, the WTA, we are going to see a lot of competitiveness, a healthy rivalry among some of these big names. Don't also forget, even our own African sister, our own lady here, though he may say that she's not that consistent on Joboa, but then at some time she do pull the strings and, you know, just manufacture something out of nothing.
Should we expect a Grand Slam from her come 2025, because she has never won a Grand Slam?
She has not, she has never, and she has come very close to some of these major Grand Slam, but the mere success syndrome, whenever she gets close to winning any of this major, it's either injury setting or it's either she's been knocked out. So I expect her this season, I mean next season, you know, to also up her ante. And that is why I'm saying that in the WTA, we are likely going to see more rivalries among these players compared to the ATP.
All right, let's see how it goes. Promises to be an exciting season in the beautiful world of tennis. Come 2025, players already preparing, of course, you know, to get themselves, you know, ready for the coming season. And of course, we'll be here to make sure, of course, we'll bring everything that you need to know revolving around the beautiful world of tennis come 2025.